The full banners for 6.0 and Nod Cry have been revealed in the live stream. So in this video, we're going to go over the 4 stars, the 5 stars, and the Sumeru Chronicled Wish, as well as the weapon banner to help you decide what is worth wishing on for you. Welcome to Jello Impact, where we build and test every single character to help you decide who you want to wish for and build. The 5.8 second half banners featuring Chaska and Mualani are upon us. If you're planning on spending on these or any future banners, let me recommend Loot Bar. I have been personally using Loot Bar for all of my top-ups for over a year, and I have spent thousands of dollars on my account. They are 100% safe, using currency exchange to get you discounts on the crystals that you were going to buy anyways. They have tens of thousands of 5-star reviews and excellent customer service. It is extremely easy to use. Just click the pack that you want, enter your UID as well as your region, press top up now, and you'll get your Genesis crystals in just a couple seconds. Officially minutes, but that only took a couple seconds. With lootbar.gg, you get up to 25% off, and if you join VIP, you get loads of free coupons, so you can save even more. New users will also be able to get a further 10% discount from clicking my link in the description, as well as an exclusive offer just for this channel with a $2 welcome. It is partnerships like these that will allow me to continue bringing the content that I do to you, as well as support my family of 5. And as I said, I've been using them unsponsored for over a year for all of my purchases. So whether you're buying for Genshin or for any other Hoyo games, make sure to click my link to support the channel and your wallet. Thanks again to Loot Bar for sponsoring the video. All right, so starting off, Lauma and Nahida are the 5-star. And there is something we seriously need to discuss so that as few people get baited as possible. Despite being an Archon, Nahida is a very bad pull now that we have Lauma. Nahida's main role is being a support for Hyperbloom teams, as well as Nilou teams. But what she brings to those teams is very, very little now that we have Lauma in the picture. You can run Lauma on field in a Hyperbloom team just like you can with Nahida. Nahida will give herself a 200 elemental mastery buff and will do a small amount of personal damage on top of Dendro application. That 200 elemental mastery buff, by the way, does not work team-wide. It does not buff Kuki, it just buffs herself, which is just a small personal damage increase. Lauma gives a Shenhe style buff to Bloom Quills that even works in AoE, which right there is a huge increase to the damage of Hyper Blooms and Nilou Blooms, as well as Burgeons and other types of blooms. She gives a 20% res shred for Dendro and Hydro as part of her kit, up to 25% actually at max talent level, on top of the Deepwood memories, and depending on the team, she also does substantially more damage than Nahida does. As a result, that means that Lauma is better than Constellation 2 Nahida just at C0 herself. So even if you have a C1 Nahida, it is still better to get a copy of Lauma. In fact, Nahida doesn't surpass Lauma's damage until Nahida is all the way at Constellation 6. So yes, you should not go for Nahida in the big 2025. You should not even think about it. Nahida does have one relevant team, and that is an on-field Kokomi in Nilou Bloom teams, but I have a feeling that even that won't last past Nefer as a meta-relevant team. And even if it does, it's still much better to go for Constellations on Lauma or the Key on Nilou. Until they buff Nahida, it is just better to save your pulls and wish on something else. They essentially have the same role now. It's just that Lauma does it a lot better. And of course, I'm sorry if, your favorite character is Nahida, and I'm not saying you shouldn't pull for Nahida if she's your favorite character, but that is the reality. And you might be wondering, well, can't I use them together? Doesn't Nahida get buffed by Lauma? And the answer is no. It is always better to just use double Hydro characters in the Hyperbloom teams. The only team, again, where Nahida remains relevant is in the Nilou Bloom variants. And Nahida isn't necessarily better than using someone like Baiju or Yao Yao and a different Hydro like Yelan or Xingqiu. However, Nahida's C2 does actually stack with the crit blooms from Lauma. So if you do have both Lauma and Nahida C2, then those Nilou teams are going to go pretty hard. Something you might be wondering is Lauma's C1 worth it, which adds healing? If you're using Hyper Bloom Raiden, Llama C1 is going to be very, very comfy for that team, as well as open up a lot more options in Nilou teams. So I think Llama C1 is a pretty good pull, but it's not an insane pull, especially with Keqing being a healer right here on this banner. And who knows what kind of teams Nefer is going to bring. It's probably better to just go for a C0 Llama and a C0 Nefer, assuming that Nefer is indeed a Bloom DPS, which she probably will be, but we'll have to wait and see. So Llama C1 is probably good, but just give it a wait for now if you're considering that, just to see what Nefer does. Now that's the 5 stars for the first half. The second half 5 stars are Flynn's and Yelan, and the 4 stars are Aino, Sucrose, and Dory. I'm going to do a more in-depth banner review closer to the release of this banner, because I feel like right now it's just a bit premature. We might as well wait and see Nefer pre-release and see a bunch of other stuff, whatever is coming in 6.1. We might as well have more information since it's a while until you can wish on this one. But just know that this is already a solid team for Flynn's right here out of the box. Story is a little weird compared to Keqing. I think you'd prefer to run Keqing on this team, but this can work. And so this is actually quite a good free-to-play for Flynn's team. So if you're thinking of going for Flynn's, this is quite nice. On to the 4 stars, Kave. I just realized that my camera wasn't on, but we're just going to keep rolling with it instead of restarting everything. The information is all correct anyways. For the 4 stars, we hit 1 out of 3. And since Keqing is such a good and integral part of Llama Bloom teams, especially if you don't have Raiden Shogun, this is just a huge win for this banner. This makes it instantly a good value banner, to be honest. It's a shame that Aino isn't on this banner. I was really hoping for that because Aino C2 is really nice for blooms, but Aino C0 along with Xingqiu, whatever constellation you have, plus Keqing will suffice as a Hyper Bloom team that can get you all the way through all of the endgame content in Genshin Impact, aside from Dire, which doesn't exist, of course. But without Keqing, it can be quite difficult to build these Hyper Bloom teams. So I'm honestly very, very pleased with how this is shaking down. Kave, not very good. He's a little bit usable on Nilou Bloom teams, and he does have a Claymore, so some people cope and say that can help him break shield, but it doesn't really matter. He's mostly just cope, but it's not so bad now if you want to use him as an on-fielder in Nilou Bloom Llama teams. Llama does help, and Barbara, pretty much a dud character on this banner. You're going to want to switch that out for a real off-field Hydro like Xingqiu, Yelan, Aino, heck, even Farina, even though she has very little synergy here. Also, if you do happen to have a Nefa, she should be very similar to Raiden / Keqing, but keep tabs on the channel because I'll be testing Inefa with Llama more. I'll have more to say on that very soon. So that's these banners. I would say that this is honestly worth wishing on for most people. Getting a Llama just basically unlocks a whole new team for you because it's like Hyper Bloom, but it's actually doing basically a time and a half more damage than it used to, which honestly is just huge. So I think that Llama is quite worth it for most people because unlocking a whole new team that basically uses no contested supports. Yelan's kind of contested, I guess, but you can go Xingqiu, Yelan, Keqing, Aino, Xingqiu, Keqing, or use Raiden or Nefa or whatever. It's elemental coverage with teams with uncontested supports just for pulling 1 5-star and makes use of teams and characters that people already have. It is a huge shame she does not buff Dendro characters more like Nahida and Alhaitham. That would have been even better, but even still, I do think Llama is worth wishing on for most players. And if you're wondering why I'm a little bit more confident now as to Llama's value for more free-to-play stuff like the Aino stuff, I'll just say I have good reason to be more confident. That's all. Now for the Chronicled Wish. I think we'll do the Chronicled Wish first, and then we'll do the weapon banner / the Chronicled weapon banner. Similar to basically every Chronicled banner these days, it's pretty much just bait with the added benefit of the bait for that constellation unlock that they're adding, which I'll make a whole video analyzing, what the best constellations to pick are, who to level 100, etc. if you do get access to the level 100 materials. Because the Chronicled Wish pity is not any lower than a regular weapon banner, this is just a chance for people that are a really big fan of any of these characters to pick up a copy of their favorite character if they've been unable to get them up until this point, and it allows these characters to rerun faster. There is no extra value added to the Chronicle Wish banner. It is true that Sumeru 4 stars will only appear on this banner, like only Sumeru 4 stars will appear on this banner, as well as Sumeru 4-star weapons appearing on the banner, but that doesn't change anything in terms of value. You can't reliably get 4-star characters or weapons. I think by far the best character on this banner is Nilou. If you like Nilou, if you've always wanted to play Nilou, now is the time. Grab yourself a Nilou, go for it, treat yourself, but also make sure you get Llama first, because Nilou is going to feel extremely underwhelming without Llama, but Llama will make Nilou teams very, very good. Once again, I do think the Hyper Bloom teams are better, but under the right conditions, Nilou teams can still be good, especially in AoE. I think I'm going to make a Tighnari guide, and I might even activate my Constellation 6 Tighnari and test him out, both with Llama and without, to see if it's worth working towards Tighnari C6 from a more casual player's perspective. I think that could be really cool, because at this point, hey, maybe you have like a C2, C3 Tighnari, maybe you pick him up as your free standard banner selector, maybe you get him again with the Constellation selector, and you're wondering, I can see myself getting a Tighnari in the next year to C6. Should I do that? Should I aim for it? Well, I think I'm going to actually unlock my C6 and see if it makes him like meta relevant. How comparable is he to the modern DPSs at Constellation 6? I think that could be really cool, because it's feeling more attainable now that you essentially get 2 free Tignaris per year, as well as whatever you lose to on the 50-50. So it's not for everyone, but I think a bunch of people might find that useful. So that is something that I am going to do. Sino, he does get a big boost from Inefa and Lauma teams. It's not enough to make him meta relevant, but it might be enough to make him usable. So that should be interesting. Wanderer, kind of a similar-ish case to Tighnari. Now you can get a Wanderer constellation here and there, and his C1 and C2 are kind of big for him. So it's still not enough to make him comparable to Chaska or anything like that, but if you're a really big fan of Wanderer, the free constellation will actually be helpful in getting him to feel okay in the Abyss and Stygian Onslaught, so it's a bit more okay. Alhaitham, one of the characters that is the constellations are not available from the Constellation Selector Anniversary Reward, is only available here, and he did not get buffed by Lauma at all, so unless you're a massive Alhaitham simp, I highly recommend just skipping Alhaitham entirely. It's a shame, but that's really what you should be doing. And Dia, I mean, we all know how we feel about Dia. We don't wish for Dia in the big 2025. She is just a character that you lose to. And yeah, you don't wish for Tighnari either, because he's free, right? He's free and you get a free constellation. So yeah, losing your 50-50, like that's the nice thing about the Chronicled Wish, is that you lose your 50-50 to other characters. So, you know, I guess losing, if you're wishing for someone for Wanderer and losing to Nilou, or wishing for Nilou and losing to Wanderer, I mean, I guess that's okay, but I don't know how good that really is. I think Chronicled Wish is exciting. It's always exciting to see all these characters here, but it doesn't actually add any more value than a regular banner for you. There's no lowered pity. It's not a guarantee, but I guess at least it makes the weapon banner a bit more interesting. This is quite a good weapon banner. The key is obviously excellent on Nilou, massive buff to her teams, but the key is also good on Farina on some teams. Not as many as it used to be. Thav is still often the go-to choice. Alhaitham's sword, not the best. It's okay for him. It's okay for him, but it's not the best signature weapon. Beacon was outpaced by Mawika's Claymore, so it used to be the best generalist, but now it's not at all, so it's not really worth wishing for. All three of these are like okay to lose to, but they're not really worth going for. Staff of the Scarlet Sands can be really good on characters like Arlecchino. Sometimes it can even be Arlecchino's best weapon, but I don't really recommend going for it. And that's kind of the same for Wanderers as well as Hunter's Path. I actually will be going for Wanderer's weapon, because it's one of the few DPS weapons that I do not have, and I will not have a cracked Wanderer until I get his weapon, because my artifacts for his set only work with this weapon. So I will be getting it for him because I have everyone else's weapon that's relevant. And then Hunter's Path is for Tighnari. And if you're really maining Tighnari, Hunter's Path is a good increase for him. It's also good on some other characters, but it's not really, again, super worth wishing for over other options, especially considering that the pity for the Chronicled Wish is 13 higher than the pity on a regular weapon banner. Now, granted, yeah, no, it's just 13 higher. So it's kind of like, what exactly are we doing here? At least it is a true 50-50, as opposed to a 37.5. It makes the overall cost to obtain a weapon on average the same as the regular weapon banner. And I would say that it's kind of a toss-up as to whether losing to these or losing to whatever other weapon that's on a normal weapon banner is better. So mostly I just recommend this for, again, simps. I think both of these, rather than saying these are bait banners, I would say these are more simp banners. These are banners for the characters that simp for these. One thing that is a bait is that they're giving you free constellations for a bunch of these characters, and it might bait you into picking up a character from the Chronicled Wish so that you can get a constellation for them. You're like, oh, I don't want to miss out on my constellation reward, so I'll pick up a Nilou so I can get Nilou C1, not really thinking through the fact that her C1 isn't all that great, and it's not until next year when you can get her C2 that it will actually be worth it. So just keep in mind of that. Don't get baited to wishing for a character just so you can use that constellation selector. That's truly Hoyo just siphoning out your primo gem. So there's that. I think the only final thing we have left to talk about is how good is the Lauma Nahida weapon banner. Lauma's weapon is not a massive increase for her teams, and neither is Nahida. However, either weapon is sort of good for Lauma. So if you lose to it, it's still a good weapon, but it's not very much better, if at all better, really, than the event weapon coming up in 6.0 or the free-to-play craftable in 6.0. So for Lauma, I definitely recommend not going for the weapon banner at all. Definitely not for Nahida. It's not even her best weapon most of the time. So definitely recommend not going for the weapon banner, even though her weapon is beautiful. And I may get baited to go for it anyways. I do not recommend going for it in any way, shape, or form. Better to just stick to either Lauma's C1 or to future characters like Nefer and whoever else in the future. So let me know your thoughts on the banner. Who will you be wishing for? Do you disagree with anything there? And if you want to check out my reactions to the full live stream, make sure to check out our podcast linked down below. Subscribe if you're excited to see all the testing we're going to do. And if you don't want to do any of that, that is totally fine. Just watching the video has been more than enough. Thanks so much. Bye for now.